The equivalent, if we're talking about the number of soldiers, the equivalent of soldiers the Israelis have lost in this 2-year period would be about 40,000 of our soldiers. It's a lot of soldiers. People talk about what the casualties are in Gaza. Here's the truth. We have no idea. It's certainly not 67,000. That's a Hamas number. It's certainly not mostly children and women. That's Hamas propaganda. We have experts who have said that's simply not possible.
How do you think Hamas is going to be disarmed, and what do you think is going to be the result of the upcoming New York mayoral elections with Zohran Mamdani? Take a look at this clip over here with Mark Levin speaking on his show about what he sees for the future of Gaza and what he sees for the future of New York. So we'll watch this clip together and then we'll talk about it. But first, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Check this out.
The President of the United States has now warned Hamas to follow through with this agreement. He was asked, well, how fast? He said, very soon, or again, they're going to be disarmed one way or the other. Now, disarm one way or the other means that the Israelis have to go back in there and destroy them. Something Netanyahu said needed to be done. Obviously, it would have been better once they had them surrounded and all their forces were in place. You know, you can't play yo-yo with military forces, in and out, fight, don't fight, and so forth and so on. It doesn't work that way. They're human beings. They have families too. You lose the strategic opportunity and advantage that you fought for and many of your soldiers died for. The equivalent, if we're talking about the number of soldiers, the equivalent of soldiers the Israelis have lost in this 2-year period would be about 40,000 of our soldiers. It's a lot of soldiers. People talk about what the casualties are in Gaza. Here's the truth. We have no idea. It's certainly not 67,000. That's a Hamas number. It's certainly not mostly children and women. That's Hamas propaganda. We have experts who have said that's simply not possible. I want to hit on another issue, related and unrelated to what we've been talking about, and that is this campaign in New York with Mandami. Mandami supports the enemy. Mandami is an Islamist, a Marxist Islamist. That's what he is. The Qatari royal family, which I detest, I don't care who likes them, I don't care who breaks bread with them, they are, in my view, the enemy. You can't be perpetrator and mediator at the same time. That doesn't fly. You can't be a mighty force behind 9/11 by protecting KSM, giving him, money, sustenance, and then helping him escape from your city, out of the apartment you put him in when the FBI was right there, having given notice and about to take him. And so then he could plot the decapitation of Daniel Pearl, the reporter with the Wall Street Journal, and of course, the attack on our country, the worst attack since Pearl Harbor on our country, right in the center of New York, right at our Pentagon, and of course in central Pennsylvania, where that jet was probably headed for the Capitol building or the White House. I mean, it's unbelievable. And Qatar had a role in this. Saudi Arabia had a role in this. But they're our new friends. Now, having said that, they back Mandami. The Qatar royal family backs Mandami. They have funded the family through the mother for years, millions of dollars. The father is a tenured professor at Columbia University where he preaches terrorism. This has got to stop. I don't want to hear about the First Amendment. There's nothing to do with the First Amendment. You think about the framers of our Constitution and the founders of our country. You think they would have said from it, oh, okay, we have British here in our schools who are teaching the opposition to our revolution. Do you think they'd say, that's what we mean by free speech? No, that's not what they mean by free speech. They would have taken that guy and strung him up. That's what they would have done. Or put him in one of those, those contraptions and thrown tomatoes at him, the stockade, or rocks until the guy was done. That's what they would have done. Or what? Tar and feather him. They tar and feathered some of the British soldiers. And by that they mean hot tar on the naked body and feathers. They wouldn't have said, free speech. Free speech for people who wanted to literally destroy us from within. That would never have happened. Mandami is the enemy. He's the enemy. And the enemy knows it, and the enemy supports him, whether they're dressed up as supporting the West or not. Here's the president. Go ahead.
Frontrunner Zohran Mamdani made his first public appearance with Governor Hochul after she endorsed him.
Meanwhile, President Trump today once again trashing Mamdani, and the president threatening to cut off federal funds to New York City if he wins.
And I want to thank Assembly Member Zohran Mamdani for putting a special exclamation point on how hard it is for families struggling in this city.
But as she did, another ultimatum today from the White House, where President Trump doubled down on his threats to withhold federal money from New York if Mamdani wins City Hall.
I wouldn't be generous to a communist, a guy that's going to take the money and throw it out the window, because you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. And we're not going to let somebody get into office and squander the taxpayer money from this country. We're not going to let it happen.
Mamdani has racked up endorsements from just about every major Democratic New York politician. Governor Hochul told reporters today that she will push back on threats from the president and supports Mamdani despite certain philosophical differences.
He's created an energy around the will to just focus on what'll make New York City even more exceptional, and that is to make it.
There we go. So the Democrat Party, it's official, backs a Marxist Islamist who's backing Hamas in every way possible. He may not state it outrightly, because that's the way it works. This is also why I love Donald Trump. No, I'm not going to let a communist blow hundreds of billions of our dollars. If it were another Republican, they'd never say that. Democrat, of course, would support what's taking place.
I think Mark Levin is spot on about everything that he says over here. First of all, regarding what's going to end up happening with Gaza, that Israel is going to have to go in. It's tough that they are going to have to, but that seems like is what's going to be the case. Hamas is not going to disarm willingly. I'm sure Prime Minister Netanyahu knew that. It was a ploy to get the hostages back. I am confident, I hope that President Trump knew that as well, that they weren't really going to that they weren't going to do much more than give back the hostages. They weren't going to purposely disarm, and everyone's just going to ride off into the sunset together. I do agree with what Mark Levin says about Qatar, that I don't know why we are so connected with Qatar, and we're pretending like there's some sort of even keel mediator, or that they're a force of good in the world. They are funding politicians, academia, candidates, people that are counter to Western values, counter to American values. The fact that we prop them up as some sort of good force in the Middle East, I have my questions about, like, why are we doing that? And I also agree with what Mark Levin says over here about Zohran Mamdani and our founding fathers. Imagine the founding fathers built America like a ship. And they warned that the greatest danger that this ship faced wasn't from storms abroad, but from a reckless captain who ignores the compass of wisdom and steers according to his own passions. Zohran Mamdani, with his radical ideology and untested ideas, represents exactly that danger. The founders wanted leaders of moderation, leaders of balance, leaders of fiscal prudence, not zealots that were going around chasing utopias. A city led by fiery idealism instead of grounded in principle risks capsizing the entire vessel of liberty that they designed to stay afloat. Now, again, the damage, because he's a New York mayor, will be primarily focused in New York, but the repercussions and ripple effects that come from an election like him winning doesn't bode well for the rest of the country, and it doesn't put us on a good trajectory of where our people, or at least pockets of our people, are where their mind is at. So let's hope for the best and see and watch everything as it plays out. And if you like this content overall, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Take care.